Hello everyone, how are you doing? This is Daryl, Guberman, CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. Background aerospace, medical implants, printing, and plastic distribution, where we dealt in all the different industries. Today this video is about, is aerospace broken? And I would be the first one in line to say yes, it is broken, and then some. Let me just give you a for instance. In 2002, Boeing gave up their supplier inspection to a piece of paper. In 2002, that means for 22 years, they gave it to a piece of paper called AS 9100, International Standards for Aerospace. Not only that, but they sit on the board of the accreditation body that they stick down a supplier's throat. Yes, the American National Standards Institute and the American National Accreditation Board. ANSI took over complete control over ANAP in 2018. They are underwriters for the International Accreditation Form located in Delaware, incorporated in Delaware, that has both national and international accreditation bodies on board. They are also an underwriter for the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation in Australia. In 2013, I gave a speech at the American Society for Quality. There was a Region 3 director there, a David Levy, who invited us in, who basically said during my speech, it was about quality, and he said, Mr. Guberman, ANAP has no problem with what you're doing. In fact, we support you, sir. And we have that all on video, of recording, etc. It was recorded. At that time, the American Society for Quality owned ANAP, the American National Accrediting Board, 50%, and ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, owned ANAP 50%. In 2016, a Mr. Randy Doty invited me to join my company and I, to join either ANAP or IF or both. But a year prior to his invitation, he handed over leadership to the International Accreditation Forum, a company that resides in the United States of America, to a communist Chinese national, Zhao Jinwu, who at the time was also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services. I hope I'm saying this slow enough so that your attention span is not being dwindled by any stretch of the imagination. When I started my business in 2011-12 and became a registrar, I had to compete against that supplier bulletin that Boeing put out that said on it that if you are AS 9100 certified, by ANSI ANAP, then you can send us your certificate, you can send us your parts, and Boeing doesn't have to go to your facility. That's number one for 22 years. That the news media doesn't want you, the public, to know about that. And I had customers at the time who were submitting my certificate who said, we're not going to accept, the OEM, Boeing, said, we're not going to accept it. It's not ANSI ANAP accredited. Why? Because Boeing sits on ANSI ANAP's board. Boeing controlled them at the time because they sat on the board of directors of ANAP, and they also sat on the board of ANAP that could grant, suspend, and withdraw certification. You find anything wrong with that? So, 2009 comes along. Mr. David Calhoun, let me take down the flag. Mr. David Calhoun comes along, right over here, the CEO. He sits on the board while you have Dennis Muhlenberg getting chastised over the whole mess for Ethiopian and Indonesian Air. But that's in 2019, 10 years later. Let's go back to 2009. 2009, David Calhoun sat on the board, the present CEO. When the FAA gave Boeing regulatory authority, which meant that they did not have to relinquish any information concerning aircraft improvements or like MCAS. They did not have to do that. If you do not believe me, here is the actual article that states that the FAA increased authority of Boeing's commercial airplanes division to self-certify its own aircraft. And this is where the MCAS thing comes in, where they didn't have to tell the FAA anything because the FAA made them a regulator. Thus, when David Calhoun took over the position of CEO of Boeing, he was an FAA administrator. Yet you hear him talk on interviews. You hear him talk about how our regulator, the FAA, is going into doing procedures to fix these problems so we don't have to do it again. Well, let me just say this, ladies and gentlemen, business owners, my fellow citizens. David Calhoun is wrong and he is bullshitting you. Because if he doesn't realize that he was a regulator back in 2009 to present, 15 years, there's something wrong. It was like a shooting gallery for them. They cut back on inspection like Mr. Dennis Muhlenberg after or before the air crashes. Almost, I think it was 900 inspectors. They moved people around, all the rest of that, and got rid of those jobs. You know, that's when you have accountants doing the work of people that should get promoted from within, rather than take people who know the board of directors or something to that nature. To make matters worse, you take a look at this. Boeing was fudging documentation when they were an FAA regulator. So how can we have reliability in what the FAA does when they were an FAA regulator at the time and they were fudging documentation? Maybe they learned it from the FAA. We have since been able to send in materials, our customers, to Boeing and all the rest of that, Lockheed. Then you look at Lockheed Martin. After their 801st F-35, they're still producing shit. On top of that, their LCS Littoral battleship is still, I think they are going to scrap the program. It was a boondoggle, a big money trap. I received this email from a former aerospace employee, Joe, thank you very much. And this is what he said. There was a time when bosses could actually run companies because they had been hands-on for years. Then, as the original old bosses retired, the new corporate raider types emerged. These types were only interested in maximizing profit. The complexities of actually manufacturing was lost on them. Because of their trading, the hands-on experience was not fully understood by them. Someone once said, "You don't know what it is to own a Ford Mustang unless you actually owned one." It is so important for bosses to have the experience of actually building something to fully grasp what it is involved from top to bottom. The old bosses had that. They were promoted from within, and you moved up in your ranks. Well, you might say that's not possible today due to the complexity of things these days. Well, it is possible to find people that are close to having the necessary experience as possible, and that is why Daryl Guberman has offered with his team the ability to assist Boeing. But they are taking individuals from the ranks of Boeing that have already been in management and just changing their title. The culture will remain the same. The disaster is on the horizon, and I am not an alarmist, but I will tell you something. When you have a guy who the only thing he knows about aircraft is touching the aircraft engine at GE, the only thing he knows is cutting corners, quality, their overhead, and that's exactly what they did. If you look at the hiring portfolio now at Boeing, they've got a lot of recs out for quality individuals. It is absolutely horrendous what is going on in aerospace. So is aerospace broken? Yes. When you have a corporation dependent on a quality certification, AS9100, because they sit on the board of ANSI-ANAP, they have controlling factors in ANSI-ANAP. They sit on the International Aerospace Quality Group, and they have their finger in the Society for Automotive Engineering. When you have all of this constriction, and on top of it to make it just as bad and worse, if not worse, that Boeing sits on ANSI's board right over by the FAA. Unbelievable stuff. And now the horse has gotten out of the cage, the barn, and now they're trying to do something. The right thing. What is the right thing? They're promoting the same people. They're just changing their title. The music is the same. They're trying to tell you we've improved it. Newly created newly created job of quality, whatever it is. They should have never gotten rid of quality. But see, they're crunching numbers. So shall we say this is also a shareholder problem as well? Yes, it is. Because they're the ones who are probably putting pressure on the board. The board's putting pressure on the CEO, and the CEO is trying to cut back everything. And quality is always the first one to go. I should know, I was in quality. Yes, got laid off several times. Yes, aerospace, all the rest of this mess. Metal manufacturing, medical. They're the first ones to go because we are considered overhead. But you know, if you don't have those pairs of eyes, you're going to have another disaster worse than Ethiopian and Indonesian Air. And I leave it here. Thank you, Joe, for sending that to me. Is aerospace broken? Yes. If it is dependent on the American National Standards Institute and the American National Crediting Board, I exposed them in 2019. Well, actually, I did a video concerning A2LA, which is an accreditation body for laboratory. A woman from A2LA wrote back underneath my video and said A2LA and ANSI are two separate entities, two separate accreditation bodies in the United States, standalones. And then I did another video. I had a Mr. Russ Cheney, who was the chairman of the chairman of ANSI, call me up and say, half a nut, fuck you. Now, people may giggle about that and all the rest of that, but the problem is that you have Lockheed Martin sitting on the board. You have Boeing sitting on the board, just to name two factors there. Because Russ Cheney is the chairman, everything that chairman says is a testament to their board members, to what the board members feel or think or approve of. So I guess they approve of that type of language coming from the American National Standards Institute. You will find the article down below that it was a 1-year anniversary that I went down and I picketed ANSI, yes, by myself in Washington, D.C. Okay, all I wanted was an apology when this thing took place in July of 2019. I sent a letter to Joe Batia, the CEO. He sent it off to his flunky attorney, Jameson Carroll of Carroll and Weiss in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, and he wrote back, he said, I never heard anything at all. He should call up his wife and play that audio for her, and so should Joe Batia. Joe Batia is stepping down this year. He shouldn't wait till December. He should step down now because he is not a person that you want in leadership. But people are going to say, well, Daryl, there's only a couple more months left. Don't let the door hit you in the ass, Joe, because you're disgusting. All I wanted was an apology. That's it. I deserved one. I didn't know this guy, Russ Cheney, but these guys, they have their organizations sit on ANSI. So what is that about Russ Cheney saying, have a nut, fuck you? Maybe that's Boeing's quality. Maybe that's Lockheed's quality. You heard what Patrick Shanahan said about the F-35 when he was Deputy Secretary of Defense, and I'll be down below. He said the program is fucked up. In actuality, though, my friend, it's not the program, it's the aircraft too after their 801st ship. It's no good. So quality is out of control. Is aerospace broken? It is. When you have people who support ANSI, and ANSI said that to me, who I am in the whole sphere of things, I am just a small little droplet of water. But always remember, the small droplet of water, it is not the droplet of water that wears away the mighty stone. It is its persistence. And these guys must condone about what Russ Cheney said. Or maybe Russ Cheney was confessing about the quality of Boeing and the quality of Lockheed. It must be, because as a chairman, as Russ Cheney is, he said that, and that's the speaking for the entire board. Also, I put in a director-at-large application in 2022 to get on their board, to maybe clean it up and assist quality, because I already knew that Boeing and Lockheed's quality was out of whack, and I could do something constructive on ANSI's board, except, do you know who the chairman of the nominating committee was? No other than Russ Cheney. You'll find his audio file down below as well. And you tell me if he didn't say half a nut, fuck you. My telephone number is 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS @yahoo.com. And I thank you and I appreciate it.